I almost choked on cafeteria pizza when my best friend leaned in and said, "You still have a key to the principal's house, right?" I stared at Mason. "Why would I have? Why do you need that?" He grinned. "That TikTok where seniors snuck into their principal's house for a sleepover? We do that tonight." I should mention the principal is my grandfather, Principal Pierce. 2 weeks earlier, he'd banned senior pranks in an assembly and basically promised anyone who tried one wouldn't walk at graduation. Mason waved that off like it was a suggestion. "This is our only shot. We're never seniors again." Everyone always acted like I could talk Grandpa out of anything because we shared DNA, but they didn't see what I saw every Sunday. Him pushing food around his plate in a kitchen that used to be loud with my grandma's humming. She died last spring, and after that, Grandpa wasn't just stricter, he was quieter. The man who used to outprank the pranksters, the guy who wore ridiculous costumes for Spirit Week and shouted himself hoarse at pep rallies, gone. So I knew I should say no. Instead, I heard myself say, "He takes his hearing aid out at night, sleeps hard until 6. Mason's eyes lit up like I'd handed him a map to buried treasure. Within an hour, there was a group chat. By the next day, it was huge. The plan wasn't vandalism. No eggs, no paint, no chaos. Just sleeping bags lined up in the living room so Grandpa would come downstairs to 80 seniors like a very confused camp counselor. I told myself he'd laugh after the shock. I told myself it was harmless. At midnight, we actually did it. I led a stream of seniors through Grandpa's backyard, everyone tiptoeing like cartoon burglars, sleeping bags tucked under arms, giggles trapped behind hands. I pointed out the squeaky spot near the fridge, the floorboard by the stairs that groaned if you stepped wrong. In less than an hour, the living room and kitchen were covered in neat rows of sleeping bags. People were taking quiet selfies, whispering, "This is legendary." I stood there watching my grandfather's family photos on the wall and felt my stomach twist, like I'd crossed a line I couldn't uncross. By 2 a.m., most of us were dozing. That's when the house made a sound that didn't belong to a prank. A heavy thud upstairs, then a raw, desperate gasp. I don't remember choosing to run. I just remember the stairs blurring under my feet and my grandfather on the floor. His face was gray. One hand clutched his chest like he was trying to hold his heart in place. When he looked at me, I saw something I'd never seen in him. Fear. Real fear. "Call 911, I shouted, dropping to my knees. My voice cracked. "Grandpa, it's Eli. Stay with me. You're okay. You're okay." The next minutes were chaos that somehow organized itself. Someone was already on the phone with emergency services, sobbing out the address. A kid with lifeguard training checked his pulse and kept calling numbers. Another sprinted for aspirin because her mom had survived a heart attack and she knew every second mattered. The rest of the seniors cleared space, turned on lights, opened doors, ran outside to flag the ambulance. My grandfather tried to speak but couldn't. He just squeezed my hand and looked at me like he was apologizing for ruining our prank. When the EMTs burst in, one of them actually paused at the sight of a hallway packed with teenagers in sleeping bags. Then she snapped into motion. As they loaded Grandpa onto the stretcher, she leaned close to me and said, steady and blunt, "You kids saved his life. If he'd been alone, he might not have made it." A week later, graduation night, the gym went silent when Grandpa stepped to the podium, slower than usual but standing. He looked out at the seniors and said, "Every one of you thought it would be funny to sneak into my house last week?" Parents turned in horror. Grandpa paused, then smiled, truly smiled, like something in him finally cracked open. "And thank God you did, because I wouldn't be here today." The room erupted. Grandpa lifted a hand for quiet. "As long as I'm principal, there will always be a senior prank," he said. "The right kind. The kind that reminds people they're not alone." Afterward, he pulled me into a hug and held on longer than he ever had. "Your grandmother would have loved that story," he whispered. One word comment, worth or wild.